Welcome to ComfortTV.channel news, bringing you verified and balanced news from Nigeria and around the world. My name is Faith Kevin. ADC accuses APC of desperation for legitimacy. Former Vice President Osinbajo leads ECOWAS election observation mission to Côte d'Ivoire. PENCOM breaks barriers with new personal pension plan for informal workers. Defense headquarters dismisses coup report, reaffirms loyalty to President Tinubu. Kano Hisba nabs man over alleged attempt to traffic two women. Senator Natasha demands transparency and accountability in solid mineral sector. On business, Nigeria spends 3.53 trillion naira on raw material imports in H125. Investor confidence lifts stock market amid interest rate cut expectations. On the foreign scene, China reiterates call for equal, mutually respected trade talks with U.S. South Korea's cold spell set to continue into the week. And on sports, Sevilla eyes second Super Eagles striker to challenge Akko Adams. Team Nigeria return with bronze medals. Now the news. The African Democratic Congress has dismissed claims by the All Progressives Congress APC that prominent members of the ADC are set to defect to the ruling party, describing the statement as a reflection of APC's desperation for legitimacy. In a statement issued by the National Publicity Secretary Malam Bolaji Abdullahi, the ADC criticized APC National Chairman Professor Netanwe Yilwada for making what it called a baseless and self-serving claim. Professor Yilwada told party stakeholders in Jos Plateau State that several notable ADC figures would formally join the APC very soon, describing the ruling party as the new bride amid a series of defections from opposition parties. He also said that some of those who had earlier defected from the People's Democratic Party to the ADC are now returning to the APC, noting that the new entrants had completed their medicals and would be unveiled soon. Responding, the ADC said the remarks underscored a deep realization by the ruling party that it cannot be saved, even if all the governors in Nigeria were to defect to it. The opposition party argued that despite high-profile defections, including those of Enugu State Governor Peter Mbah and the expected move by Bayelsa State Governor Toye Diri, the APC remained deeply unpopular among Nigerians. Reaffirming its position as a credible opposition ahead of the 2027 general elections, the ADC declared that the APC will learn that real democratic power resides with the people, not with a handful of power merchants who thrive on defections and propaganda. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has appointed the immediate past Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, son, GCON, to lead its election observation mission to the upcoming presidential election in the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, scheduled for 25 October 2025. The mission will be deployed in line with the provisions of the ECOWAS Supplementary Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance. As head of mission, Professor Osinbajo will lead a team of eminent West Africans tasked with engaging key national stakeholders to support a peaceful and credible electoral process, fostering cooperation with other international and domestic observer groups, and assessing the conduct of the polls. The deployment of this observation mission underscores ECOWAS's unwavering commitment to promoting peace, stability, and credible elections in the sub-region. The National Pension Commission, PENCOM, has announced a major reform that allows self-employed and unemployed Nigerians to participate in the nation's pension scheme through a newly introduced initiative known as the Personal Pension Plan, PPP. The Director General of PENCOM, Mrs. Omolola Oloworaron, disclosed this on the sidelines of a two-day sensitization workshop for pension desk officers held in Lagos. Ms. Oloworaron explained that the PPP was formerly known as the Voluntary Contribution under the Contributory Pension Scheme (CPS), which had several limitations that restricted participation. According to her, under the old arrangements, contributors could only make voluntary pension payments through their employers, a process that excluded self-employed persons and those without formal jobs. She emphasized that the Retirement Savings Account (RSA) structure remained remains unchanged, but the Commission's decision to rebrand and expand the plan was aimed at providing broader access and inclusivity. The DG noted that the initiative forms part of the PENCOM's strategic efforts to expand pension coverage across the country, particularly targeting the informal sector, which makes up a large portion of the Nigerian workforce. She assured that the new plan would ensure better financial security for all contributors in retirement and deepen the culture of long-term savings among Nigerians. The Defense Headquarters DHQ has dismissed as false and malicious an online report alleging that the cancellation of activities marking Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary was linked to an attempted coup. The Director, Defense Information, Brigadier General Tukur Gusau, in a statement said the report also made baseless references to the ongoing investigation of 16 Army officers. He said the Armed Forces of Nigeria, AFN, never at any time mentioned or alluded to a coup attempt, adding that the story was a deliberate attempt to incite fear and distrust among citizens. General Gusau explained that the Independence Anniversary Parade was shelved to enable President Bola Tinubu attend a strategic bilateral meeting outside the country. He also said it was to allow troops sustain ongoing counter-terrorism and anti-banditry operations nationwide. The general added that the investigation of the 16 officers was a routine internal process aimed at upholding discipline and professionalism within the ranks. He gave an assurance that the outcome will be made public in due course. In a decisive operation aimed at combating human trafficking, the Kano State Hisbah Board has apprehended a 43-year-old man, Abubakar Adodo, for allegedly attempting to traffic 2 women out of Nigeria. The suspect, who hails from Faje local government area of Kano State, was arrested at a motor park in Kano Metropolis while in the company of the 2 women. Authorities say they were en route to Lagos from where they intended to travel through the Republic of Benin and eventually onto Somalia. The 2 women, identified as 22-year-old Hajira Ismail from Funtua and 33-year-old Bilkisu Haruna from Kofar Marusa, both in Katsina State, were reportedly being lured with false promises of better opportunities abroad. However, their plans were cut short when vigilant citizens tipped off the Hisbah Board, leading to the swift intervention of the state's moral enforcement agency. The Deputy Commander General of the Kano State Hisbah Board, Sheikh Mujahid Aminuddin Abubakar, confirmed that the successful operation was made possible through intelligence gathered from concerned members of the public who noticed suspicious activity involving the suspect and the 2 women. Officers from the board acted promptly and intercepted the suspect and the victims before they could leave Kano. Preliminary investigations indicated that this was a case of attempted trafficking under the guise of travel arrangements to Somalia. Following the arrest, the Hisbah Board handed over the suspect and the 2 women to the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, for further investigations and possible prosecution. NAPTIP is the federal agency responsible for combating human trafficking and related offenses across Nigeria. The board emphasized the importance of community cooperation in identifying and stopping trafficking networks. It commended the citizens who reported the suspicious movement and urged others to remain vigilant in protecting vulnerable individuals, especially women and children, from exploitation. This incident adds to the growing number of trafficking cases being uncovered in Nigeria, particularly in northern states where traffickers often target young women with promises of employment or education opportunities abroad. Somalia has become one of the key destinations or transit points for trafficking networks involved in forced labor, sexual exploitation, and other forms of modern slavery. The Hisbah Board reiterated its commitment to promoting social and moral order in Kano State and pledged to continue collaborating with law enforcement agencies, community leaders, and civil society groups to combat all forms of human trafficking and exploitation. Investigations are ongoing and further updates expected from NAPTIP regarding the legal proceedings and the full scope of the trafficking attempt. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has called for full transparency and accountability in the operations of Nigeria's solid mineral sector, urging the Ministry of Solid Minerals to make all memoranda of understanding (MOUs) and contractual agreements public. Speaking at the just concluded Solid Minerals Ministerial Legislative Retreat, the lawmaker emphasized that openness in the sector was key to restoring public trust and ensuring that host communities benefit from the country's abundant natural resources. Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan urged the ministry to publish details of its contracts, engagements, and MOUs on its official website, adding that such transparency would enable Nigerians to hold government officials accountable and help attract responsible investors to the growing solid minerals industries. Drawing attention to her home state, she lamented that despite Kogi Central's vast mineral deposits, over 52 in commercial quantities, 8 people remain impoverished. The senator recounted a recent conversation with a colleague that revealed for the first time plans for her constituency to benefit from the mineral wealth within its soil, a discovery she described as both enlightening and troubling. The Kogi lawmaker cautioned that Nigeria must avoid repeating the mistakes in the oil and gas sector, where poor oversight and opaque dealings have led to the massive losses and environmental damage. Comfort TV, the channel news, returns shortly with business, foreign and sports news. Many thanks for staying with us. This is Comfort TV, the channel news. We bring you business news where Nigeria's push for industrial growth through import substitution is facing a major setback as the manufacturing sector becomes increasingly dependent on imported raw materials. Latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics show that raw materials imports rose by nearly 20% in the first half of 2025, reaching 3.53 trillion naira, up from 2.95 trillion naira in the same period last year. Key imports include sugarcane products, oil additives, leather hides, gypsum for cement, and chemical binders used in paint production. These materials are largely sourced from countries such as Brazil, the United States, China, Germany, and the United Kingdom. Despite efforts to promote local sourcing, over 70% of the inputs used by manufacturers in Nigeria still come from abroad. This growing reliance is putting additional pressure on the country's foreign exchange reserves and exposing structural weaknesses in the economy. Experts say high energy costs, low local processing capacity, and currency devaluation are key factors driving the trend. The result is a higher production cost, reduced competitiveness, and limited job creation. To address the issue, the federal government has approved new tax incentives to encourage manufacturers who use locally sourced materials. The goal is to cut import dependence by at least 60% over the next 5 years and strengthen Nigeria's industrial base. In 2024 alone, raw material imports cost Nigerian manufacturers an estimated 6.64 trillion naira, highlighting the urgent need for reforms and investments in local raw material development. Still on business, the Nigerian stock market extended its bullish run last week following the reduction in inflation rate and for the expectation of a cut in the monetary policy rate (MPR) by the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN). The inflation rate for September 2025 dropped to 18.02% from 22.12% in August, according to the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS), just as MPR benchmark interest rate was reduced to 27% from 27.5% in August by the CBN. Analysts are predicting further reduction in MPR in the next policy meeting by the CBN. 1.265 trillion naira as the Nigerian exchange. Meanwhile, analysis of the performance of the stock market last week showed that investors gained 1.265 trillion naira as the Nigerian Exchange Limited (NGX) market capitalization closed on Friday at 94.561 trillion naira from 93.296 trillion naira the previous week. Similarly, another stock market performance indicator, NGX All Share Index (ASI), grew higher by 1.4% to close at 148,977.64 Kobo points to close at 148,977.64 146,977 points against 146,988 points recorded the previous week. The upbeat performance, according to analysts, comes at a time of cautious optimism in the market, with investors positioning ahead of the third quarter 2025 Q3 25 earnings releases and broader macroeconomic developments. Analysts noted that the positive reaction to the September inflation report also reinforced expectations for a potential rate cut at the next policy meeting. Further analysis of trading last week showed that Dangote Cement appreciated, BUA Foods appreciated, Stanbic IBTC garnered 8.3% and WAPCO 4.3%. That said, market activity was mixed, with trading volume increasing by 5.9% week on week. Across sectors, performance was broadly positive as the Industrial Goods Index up by 2.8%, while the banking index declined by minus 0.1% and the oil and gas index remained unchanged. Moving on to the foreign scene, China has renewed its call for fair and balanced trade negotiations with the United States as both sides prepare for another round of tariff talks this week. Speaking in Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokesman Guo Jiakun said trade wars and tariff disputes serve no one's interest and stressed the need for consultations based on equality, mutual respect, and reciprocity. The comments follow reports that the next round of negotiations could focus on sensitive areas such as rare earths, fentanyl, and U.S. soybean exports. The talks are expected to take place in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Chinese Vice Premier Haley Feng and U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent agreed during a video call on Saturday to meet in person this week. The discussion comes as Malaysia prepares to host an ASEAN summit, which U.S. President Donald Trump and his delegation are scheduled to attend. Tensions between the two global powers flared last week after President Trump threatened to double tariffs on Chinese imports in response to China's latest export restrictions. However, he later acknowledged that high tariffs were not sustainable in the long term. Despite the friction, both countries appear to be keeping the door open for dialogue. Still on foreign, South Korea is expected to remain in the grip of a sudden cold spell until October 23, with sub-zero wind chill and frost advisories issued in some regions and rain forecast for parts of the east and southeast coast. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration, the cold late autumn conditions will continue into the week, following an abrupt drop in temperatures and strong northwesterly winds over the weekend. The change was attributed to a cold air mass driven by a high-pressure system expanding from northern China, which brought cold air and strong winds into the peninsula, creating a sudden shift to chilly conditions across most of the country. Morning temperatures are expected to remain below 10 degrees Celsius nationwide for the rest of the week, with daytime highs ranging from between 11 degrees Celsius and 22 degrees Celsius, roughly 2 degrees Celsius to 7 degrees Celsius below seasonal norms. Due to the chill, frost is likely to form in some inland and mountainous areas across the country. This includes the northern areas in Gyeonggi Province, inland regions in Gangwon Province, as well as high elevation regions in North Chungcheong and North Jeolla Province eastern regions. Light rain is also forecasted for the east coast from Gangwon Province down through the north and south Gyeongsang provinces through October 23. Rain may even switch to snow in the mountainous regions of northern Gangwon Province, with up to 1 centimeter of snow expected. On to sports, Spanish La Liga club Sevilla are weighing up a move for Super Eagles striker Sadiq Umar in January. The two strikers, Akko Adams and Isaac Romero, have been good but inconsistent. This season, Adams has 2 goals and 1 assist in 7 games, while Romero has 3 goals in 8 games. However, Sevilla are looking to get another attacking threat, and according to Vamos Mi Seville, Los Nerviones are eyeing Sadiq. Sadiq Umar has struggled for minutes at Real Sociedad this season, as he has only featured in 2 games, both of which were off the bench. The 28-year-old striker was one of the best strikers in Spain until he suffered an anterior cruciate ligament injury 3 years ago. If the move works out, Sadiq will be the 3rd Nigerian player on Sevilla's roster after Akko Adams and Chidera Ejuke. Still on sports, Team Nigeria's men and women's hockey teams returned home after representing the country at the Africa Hockey Cup of Nations in Ismailia, Egypt. The Nigerian teams gave spirited performances against Africa's top side, including South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, and host Egypt. The men's team secured a bronze medal, the best finish in recent years after defeating Kenya 3-1 in the third-place playoff. Nigeria's James Samaila emerged as the tournament's top scorer, netting 8 goals to cap an impressive campaign for the men's side. The women's team, who had won bronze in previous editions, also gave a strong showing, narrowly missing out on a podium finish this time. President of the Nigerian Hockey Federation (NHF) Simon Nkom commended both teams for their dedication, teamwork, and resilience upon arrival from Egypt. The tournament also served as Africa's qualifier for the 2026 FIH Hockey World Cup. And that's our news bulletin. But before we go, here is a recap of our top stories. ADC accuses APC of desperation for legitimacy. Former Vice President Osibanjo leads ECOWAS election observation mission to Côte d'Ivoire. PENCOM breaks barriers with new personal pension plan for informal workers. Defense headquarters dismisses coup report, reaffirms loyalty to President Tinubu. Kano Hispa naps man over alleged attempt to traffic 2 women. Senator Natasha demands transparency and accountability in solid mineral sector. On business, Nigeria spends 3.53 trillion naira on raw material imports in H125. On the foreign scene, China reiterates call for equal, mutually respected trade talks with the U.S. And on sports, Sevilla eyes second Super Eagles striker to challenge Akol Adams. Thank you for watching. For breaking news, exclusive interviews, and more, follow us online at ComfortTV.channel on our platforms. Remember to like and share our videos, subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any updates. My name is Faith Kevin. Until next time, stay informed, stay connected.